Hello everyone and welcome to this RMS Support Center Brown Bag training. Today we're going to be reviewing the updates and fixes coming in the upcoming patch release. That patch release is going to be released on Thursday afternoon, which is going to be October the 19th of this week. If you experience any issues downloading the new patch, please don't hesitate to contact the help desk. There is a link to our ticketing system in Jira and a phone number that you can call on the references slide within this presentation. You can also find that information within our website. The slides for this presentation can be found on our website as well, rms.usace.army.mil. That link is also provided on the references slide in this presentation. These slides will be updated to include the Q&A that occurs during this WebEx, and this is also being recorded. If you have any questions regarding anything we covered today, please type that question into the Q&A section of this WebEx. We do have some RMS Support Center folks on standby to take care of those as they come in. We're also going to open the floor up for discussion at the end of the presentation, so if you'd like to wait until the end and then unmute to ask your question, you will have the opportunity to do that as well. Okay, let's get started. Here are our topics for today. First, we're going to look at an update made in administration. Then we'll review updates and fixes made to changes and modifications within the Finances tab. We'll also look at an issue in the Transmittal Log, review an update to the import capabilities in RMS and updates to the closeout area. And finally, we'll look at some fixes made to reports, both contract and summary reports. Okay, first up is an update to the contract status module within the administration tab. A new COR comments tab has been added to this view. This has been added so that field offices have an area to type in notes for the reporting on the status of the contract, and they can do this with as much or as little text as needed. This is an area of free entry, and it's not going to show on any reports, but it may be useful in other reports regarding the status of the contract. You can just pull that from this area if you need it. To access this tab, you will need read-write access to the phase dash status/issues tab to be able to view and use this field. As I mentioned, it is free entry, so you can type directly into the field, or if you'd like to get a pop-out window of the field, you can click on the notebook icon down here, and it will do just that. It'll bring the field out into a separate window. Okay, moving into the finances updates and fixes, we'll start with contract changes. So since the funds status field was added not too long ago, this dash funding status verbiage on this field above it was really not necessary, so we have removed that. This field just reflects the change request status, and the fund status can now be set separately in the field below that. Next, still in contract changes, there was an issue with generating documents that required a call to Microsoft Word templates, and this was occurring in the Supporting Documents tab within Change Requests, or within the Supporting Documents tab of some older modifications that still contain that tab. Newer modifications only have the mod package tab, but this may have been occurring in older modifications with the Supporting Documents tab. So for example, on the slide here, we can see that attempting to generate a PNM document results in these transaction failed and padding is invalid errors. And this usually opens the document in Word, so that was not working correctly. And this was due to some file IDs getting mixed up in the background, but this has been corrected. Generating documents that require calling Word templates will now work properly and open the document in Word as shown here on the slide. Okay, next, moving to contract modifications. We had an issue with deleting modifications. So when a modification needed to be deleted and everything is reset on the modification and all the CLIN information is removed from the mod, attempting to delete the mod results in the error shown here. There are CLIN changes attached to this modification, deletion not allowed, even though the CLIN or CLINs had in fact been removed from the modification. So it seems like there were some lingering links that remained in RMS somewhere in the background, and that's why the mod could not be deleted. This has been fixed so that when CLINs have been removed from a modification that needs to be deleted, all the CLIN links are removed, and this will allow deletion of the mod. If the link between the change request and the modification still does exist when you're trying to delete the mod, you'll receive a warning shown here regarding that. It'll just let you know that there is still a change request linked. If you would like to move forward with the deletion, you can just click yes in that window. That is going to remove all of the links associated with the modification, and then the modification will be able to get deleted. So this was another issue also occurring in contract modifications, and this was occurring with the modification title field on the SF30-2 tab in a contract modification. So when there would be a value entered in this field, as shown here, that value was not showing in block 14 on the SF30 for the modification, as the RMS screen depicts it should. And this has also been corrected. The report is now going to properly pick up the value in this field on the RMS screen, and it will show up in block 14 on the SF30 as implied by the RMS screen.
To demo this issue, we have a contract open in the upcoming patch release, and within the Finances tab, we'll go to the Contract Modifications module. I have a couple of modifications mostly completed, ready to go for this demo here, so we'll enter one. And for the sake of this demo, let's say this modification is no longer needed, so we're going to undo its completion. To do that, we'll uncheck all of the checkboxes in the Release Mod tab, and we'll remove the government signature date. Nothing needs to be undone in the SF30-3 tab. Now in the SF30-2 tab, I want to point out the issue that we were experiencing with the modification title field. Previously, or currently, this field is not showing in block 14 on the SF30 report. So now if we go up to the top right corner and click on the SF30 button and view our report, if we scroll down to block 14, we can see that that value does show in the SF30 report now in block 14 as the RMS screen implies. Moving on, we'll go ahead and finish undoing our modification. To do that, we'll delete the CLIN that was added, and we'll remove the change request link. Now we go back. So this modification should be able to be deleted, but before I do that, I'm going to show the error in the current production release. So again, I'm here in the current production release in the same contract. So in the Finances tab, I'll go to the Contract Modifications module, and we'll enter our other modification here and do the same thing. This modification is no longer needed, so we're going to undo its completion so that it can be removed and deleted. delete the CLIN, remove the change request link, and now when we go back, we can see that both of these are in the same state. They've both been completely walked back and the CLIN has been removed from the modification. So in the current production release, when I attempt to delete this modification, I received the error that deletion is not allowed due to CLIN changes being attached to this modification. However, the CLIN had in fact been removed. So like I mentioned, this has been fixed, and whenever I try and delete this other change, this other modification that we completely walked back and removed the CLIN information from, it's going to allow me to delete the modification.
Okay, moving on from finances, we have an issue that was impacting the signing process for draft transmittals within the transmittal log. So when clicking on the Create and Digitally Sign 4025 button within a draft transmittal, let's say there was something missing or forgotten on the transmittal edit view that the user realized before they put in their PIN or password. If the user canceled out of the PIN or password prompt, these buttons would not revert back to being active. They remained disabled and unclickable. You would have to exit this screen and then re-enter the screen for those buttons to reactivate. So this issue has also been corrected. So when canceling out of the PIN or password screen after selecting the Create and Digitally Sign 4025 button, since no PIN or password has been entered, you're just canceling out of the screen. These buttons will revert back to their original state before the Create and Digitally Sign 4025 button was clicked. To demo this issue, I'm going to start in a draft transmittal within the current production release, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this Create and Digitally Sign 4025 button. I'll move past these prompts till I get to the PIN or password screen. And then I'll cancel out of that. This is showing since I canceled out of that password screen. And when I get out of that, even though no password or PIN was entered, these buttons remain deactivated. When you leave the page and come back in, they will become reactivated. So now I'm in the upcoming patch release, and I'll do the same thing. And when I get to the password prompt, I'll cancel out of that again. And when I return, these buttons are now reactivated as they should be. Okay, next we have an update to the Import-Export tab, specifically to the NAS SDEF module, what was formerly known as that module. XML files can now be imported into this module. So the module's title has been updated to simply Network Analysis Schedule, or NAS. The description has been updated to include the verbiage for XML files as well. So RMS is now allowing the import of both P6 XML and P6 SDEF files. So the process of adding an XML file like this is going to be very similar, if not pretty much the same as the SDEF import files. The import will need to be requested and approved for import by the government. The screen setup will also look very familiar, the only exception being that instead of the SDEF file tab here, it has the XML file tab, which serves the same purpose as the SDEF file tab. It just shows the raw XML file data in that tab. Just as with an SDEF, before importing into the contract fully, you'll need to preview the data or the import earnings before finally importing it into the contract. So like I said, the process is going to align very closely with that of the SDEF file import.
So to demo this issue, I'll open up a contract in the upcoming patch release, navigate to the Import/Export tab, and we can see the newly titled module here. Instead of including the SDEF verbiage in the title has been updated to only Network Analysis Schedule. And also the P6 XML verbiage was added to the description. So now we'll enter the module. We can see we've already got a demo XML file that's been imported, but let's go ahead and add another. This process is going to be the same as the SDEF import. You're going to click on the Add button. Click the Select File button to choose a file from your file system. I've got one ready to go here. Open that up. Click Next. Enter the information as you would for an SDEF file here as well. And finally, click Finish. That's going to bring up this same preview screen that you're probably used to from the SDEF import file screen. This is primarily the same, the only difference being that there is an XML file tab here instead of the SDEF file tab, but it does serve the same purpose. The XML file tab is just going to show the raw XML file data. The process of completing the import is also going to be the same as the SDEF import. The import will need to be requested and the government will have to approve it. Since I am already in government mode, I will go ahead and click on the Approve Request to Import button. And before completing the import, you'll have to preview the data that you wish to import. You can preview the data import into the contract and/or preview the import earnings into payment. So I'll preview the data import into contract. And this screen setup is also primarily the same as the SDEF import file setup. You'll just review all of this, verify everything is correct, and finally click on this Import Data into Contract button.
Okay, moving on, looking at the closeout area. So this is specific to contractor mode for the warranty tracking module. These fields at the bottom of the warranty item screen for the evaluation of contractor performance on this item. These fields are no longer editable in contractor mode. These fields are really government entry only. So the ratings entered into these fields will be visible in contractor mode, but moving forward, they will be read-only as well. And you will not be able to edit them in contractor mode. Okay, again, in closeout, an update has been made to the Transfer DD Form 1354, or the Transfer and Acceptance of DoD Real Property Form. When there are negative values in the total quantity and/or the construction cost fields in the real property item as shown here, those negative values are going to display in parentheses moving forward. Previously, they were showing, I think I have something I can pull up for that. This is an image of how it was previously showing. It was showing with just the classic minus sign in front of the number, and instead, everything that's negative will be shown in parentheses on the DD Form 1354. And the reason for that update is to remain in accordance with this UFC paragraph referenced here. Okay, moving on and into contract reports. First up is an issue that was occurring with the activity schedule comparison report. When using this report to compare a schedule to the current data in RMS, the current data was not showing for the current schedule start date and the current schedule end date. And this was not because the activity schedule had no dates in it or anything. There were dates that should have been populating there. So this has been corrected. The current schedule dates do populate correctly now. First, these dates will come from the actual start and actual finish columns within the activity schedule. If there are no actual dates in those columns, then the report is going to pull from the early start and finish columns in the activity schedule. And if there are no values in the actual start and finish or in the early start and finish columns, the report will pull from the late start and finish columns. So first it's going to try the actuals. Then if there are no actuals, it will try the earlies. And if there are neither of those two, as a last resort, it will pull the late start and finish dates.
To demo this update, I'll start by showing the error in the current production release. So here I have a contract open in the current production release, and I'm going to go to the contract reports module. Now I'll search for the activity schedule comparison report and select that. Okay, and in the report parameters view, I'm going to make sure to select the current data selection and then an arbitrary selection for the schedule to compare it with. And then I'll click on preview. And as you can see, there are no dates populating for the schedule start date or for the schedule end date. So now let's take a look at the activity schedule for this contract to see if that's accurate. We'll go back to the contract menu, click on the Schedules tab, and go to the Activity Schedule module. As you can see, there are dates populated for every activity within the activity schedule, so there should be at least something generating in those current schedule date areas on the activity schedule comparison report. So now if I get into the same contract in the upcoming patch release, again, I'll go to the contract reports module, search for our report, and select it. Again, I'll compare a schedule to the current data. And as you can see, there are now dates populating in the current schedule end and current schedule start date areas on the activity schedule comparison report. So now I'm going to go back to the activity schedule for this contract again. Schedules, activity schedule module. And I want to show that the activity schedule comparison report is going to first pull dates from these two actual start and actual finish date columns for the activities in the schedule. And then if there are no actual start or finish dates, it's going to pull from the early start and finish date columns. And then if there are no dates in either the actual or the early start and finish date columns, the late start and finish date columns will be used as a last resort to get the information into that report.
Okay, moving into summary reports, we have an update to the modification processing time report. Previously, only the contract ID and contract title, as shown here in this version of the report. Previously, only those two items were being used for the contract header lines within this report. Those values are pretty unique to RMS, the application. So instead, now the contract number and the delivery order numbers will be shown along with the contract title in those contract header lines. If the contract doesn't have those numbers filled in, then the contract ID and contract title will be populated into here as it is currently doing that by default. Just as a quick reminder, the contract selection view shows all of this information: the contract number, the delivery order number, the contract ID, and the title of the contract. So if you ever need something to cross-reference with this report, you can use the contract selection view most of the time. Okay, and finally, we have an error with the contract status snapshot report. In production, this is just not generating. It may have something to do with the report parameters. It may generate sometimes, but it seems to be having issues with the images that generate within this report. Photos are added for contract status often, so the varying sizes and state of those photos was just causing this to be interrupted and not generate. That has been corrected. So the contract status snapshot summary report can be generated without any errors. Okay, and that was the last fix that we had to review today. We have some references to our previous trainings here that may be helpful as it relates to the topics that we've discussed today. We also have our RMS website link, the JIRA service desk link to put in a ticket for the help desk, a phone number if you'd like to just give the help desk a call, and finally a link to the KM portal. Okay, and do we have any questions we'd like to review? Okay, it looks like it will not be coming through on email. Just try and keep an eye on the website if you can. Like I said, we'll be posting it there and also in the RMS YouTube channel. Okay, I don't see any more questions for right now, but we'll hang on a few minutes for sure to make sure everyone has time to think or unmute or anything. Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and close out and let everyone get back to their day. Thank you all so much for attending. And like I said, I hope you'll be able to catch our video that we'll post, like I said, also within 5 business days. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.